What a day. What a day, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Carving Up Live right here on YouTube, as well as on Facebook, on Twitch, on X, and on Instagram. I am Bryson Carver, and I could not be happier. I could not be happier to be in studio on this particular Monday, not just because it's 3 days ahead of Christmas. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas to everybody out there watching, listening. We're going to do a little bit of a Christmas-themed earlier show, about noon on Christmas Eve. More on that later. This was... The only thing that wasn't perfect about this weekend was that my man Dak Prescott got eliminated from playoff contention. Outside of that, it was perfect. First of all, the Warriors finally won a game. That was nice. But that's the least of which. My Steelers won. Talk about that in just a moment. The Ravens lost. We'll talk about that in about 45 minutes. Bryson's Bleak Bet. That game hit. Thank you, Cincinnati Bengals. Upset of the week hit. Thank you, Tennessee Titans. And thank you, Vegas, for making the Titans an underdog to the Mahomes-less Chiefs. And then all three Betman games hit. All three, for the first time this season, if I were a Batman games, hit, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm very excited, very fired up to be in studio. We got so much to talk about. We got some college football playoff stuff in the second hour of the show. Going to talk about, obviously, the Patriots with a big-time culture win over the Ravens, as well as why I think John Harbaugh is probably out of Baltimore after this season is over. Going to talk about the Chicago Bears. Yet another comeback victory for those guys this season. The Cardiac Kids in Chicago, clutch Caleb Williams. A guy I believed in from the jump as a generational talent, and he's showing you, especially in the biggest moments. Somebody else who I believed in. This is why it's such a great show today. Someone else I believed in to show up in the biggest moments and to elevate himself as an elite quarterback in this league, Mr. Trevor Lawrence. And we will talk about him about a half hour from now. So, of course, recap of the rest of Week 16 around the National Football League. A lot of stuff happened. Ashton Genty had a big game. I'm telling you, I could not be more fired up to be on the show today. My guy Sal is in the chat. Pretty appreciate Sal. He was on the show last week. He's been putting out some clips on social media. Check him out. Follow him on social media. Sal Rock _ Instagram, TikTok. Sal's the man. I got a chance to collab with him and other content creators in New York a couple weeks back, and we'll continue to collaborate with him with other people who are at House of Highlights in New York City in the future. No question about it. But let's get right to business. But first, it was a shockingly, heart-attacky type of finish for my Pittsburgh Steelers. But when it's all said and done, for the third straight week, it's a black and yellow victory Monday. Black and yellow, black and yellow, black and yellow, black and yellow. Indeed, my Pittsburgh Steelers, as a 7-point dog, go on the road to Detroit, Michigan, at Ford Field against a very desperate Detroit Lions team. A Detroit Lions team that knew, obviously because Green Bay had lost the night before, hey, the Packers just got to go 1-1, and with that, they're out their quarterback maybe for the remainder of the regular season. We went out, we're in. We are going to be in the playoffs as the 7th seed, and Green Bay's going to outright collapse. Detroit knew that going into this game. And Pittsburgh, we'll get to the ending, obviously. Pittsburgh came in, had well over 400 yards of offense, and there's a lot of credit to be thrown around. To me, when it comes to the offensive side of the ball, first and foremost, two individuals, two young men, Jaylen Warren, Kenneth Gainwell. By the way, shout out to Omar Khan, who I've been hard on at times on the show. Kenneth Gainwell, great pickup in free agency from the defending Super Bowl champion Eagles, who really didn't have a spot for him, so they let him walk. Pittsburgh picks him up, and he's been excellent this year. But go ahead and show what Kenneth Gainwell, Jaylen Warren did, because they were outstanding. They carried the offensive load for the Pittsburgh Steelers. They had 30 touches, 279, that says receiving yards, I should say total yards, 3 total touchdowns, and 9.3 yards per touch. Kenneth Gainwell had the big-time, shocking... Remember, I'm forgetting the guy's name, for the Packers, 20-something years ago, when Al Michaels was calling the game. He did what? When Brett Favre throws that long ball, wins the game against Minnesota in overtime. Forget what the guy's name was. I apologize. Kenneth Gainwell makes a very similar play at the end of the first half, isn't touched, runs it in for a touchdown, which basically ties the game for Pittsburgh, gives us momentum, and Jaylen Warren breaks not one, but 2 45-yard rushing touchdowns. So that was beautiful to see. The running game in Pittsburgh, off the charts, and it's been better in recent weeks than it has been over the course of this season. And also offensively, because it wasn't a perfect game by any stretch of the imagination. Jaylen Warren broke some big runs. Kenneth Gainwell made the plays. Had well over 100 yards by himself in terms of all-purpose yards, receiving and rushing. But the fact of the matter is this. You had the fumble by Darnell Washington. You had the shocking missed kick. I mean, I almost fell on the floor when Chris Boswell missed the kick late to make it, would have made it an 8-point Steelers lead. So it's okay, worst they can do is tie us. Again, we'll get to the ending obviously later. By no means a perfect stretch of football for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But credit where it is due. And shout out to my guy, Alfred Parso Jr. of the Metropolitan Report. Please go subscribe to him. He does a great job covering the New York Mets. He is all but begging. He's a Jets fan. And he was like, hey, Aaron's not the problem here, which to a degree that is true. He was a problem, not the problem in New York. He is all but begging me, Bryson, just apologize to Aaron Rodgers. You didn't think this would work, and by and large, it's worked. I said, I will apologize if he breaks the Mike Tomlin curse of 9 consecutive seasons, losing the postseason. But credit where it's due. Aaron Rodgers yesterday against the Detroit Lions. Let's show his numbers. Pretty darn solid, right? Touchdown, no interceptions, 65% completion, 266 through the air, 92 rating, 55 QBR. That's about what Aaron has been, I would say, a B+ to A- performance from Aaron Rodgers this season. But when the year looked like, and listen, the Steelers haven't won the AFC North yet. It's looking good. It's not over yet. When it was looking like this season, oh boy, this Tomlin's going to have his first losing season. 6-6, get embarrassed at home by Buffalo. The fans, as we played, multiple times with the show, the fans were chanting. I mean, it was getting ugly. And in the 3 games since, credit where it is due, Aaron Rodgers has been quite good. 5 touchdowns, no picks, 71% completion. Again, a lot of dump-off stuff, but 71%, still 71%. 258 pass yards a game, a 106 rating, QBR 0 to 100 of 58. And you see right there, 3-0. One critical win coming at Baltimore. And then another critical win coming, obviously, the Dolphins. But come on, you're supposed to be the Dolphins at home in the cold weather. And then on the road in Detroit against a highly desperate Lions team, playing for its season, in essence. And you come in, you're efficient, you're controlling the offense. There's the kind of the clip that went viral of him yelling at Jonnu Smith. He's got, "Green 19! Jonnu, what the are you doing?" Like, he's cussing out Jonnu Smith. He's like, the biggest thing to me that Aaron has provided this team, because I still have massive questions and massive knocks on Aaron as it relates to leadership, as it relates to ability to come back late in fourth quarters. That's not really his MO the way, or really even in his prime, that wasn't his MO. The thing that I will give Aaron a ton of credit on, it's funny, I was actually having a conversation about this. It wasn't during the Steeler game. Something came up. My dad and I were, watching the Packers and Bears game. And something came up about like the smartest quarterbacks in the history of the game at the line of scrimmage. And to me, the unsurpassable go at that is a Tennessee Volunteer legend by the name of Peyton Manning. Like Peyton changed the play, I feel like, every time in the line of scrimmage. Obviously, Tom Brady, his intelligence at the line of scrimmage. I think the modern day Mahomes is very good at it. Dak's very good at it. Aaron Rodgers is one of the best at it. Not just in terms of diagnosing the play, but hey, 12 guys in the field. Hey, this guy's offsides. In Aaron's prime, his hard count was, unmatched. At the line of scrimmage, to me, is where Aaron is getting the most out of what he can get out of this offense. And Aaron deserves a ton of credit for that. And then we get to late in the game. Jalen Warren's broken off a couple big second half runs. I'm like, oh my gosh, we're going to win in Detroit. We're in the driver's seat. The AFC North, go Patriots. And all of a sudden, Detroit comes back. And all of a sudden, touchdown, and then you kick it back to Pittsburgh. It's like, okay, if we can bleed some clock, worst case, let's kick a field goal. We're up 8. Worst case, this thing goes to overtime. And Chris Boswell, who Mike Tomlin, after he hit a bomb field goal to win the game against the Jets all the way back in week 1, called a psychopath. Or something along those lines, I think. Or what did he say? Serial killer or something like that. He misses a 37-yard field goal, doinks it off the right upright. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, we're going to lose this game. We're just going to blow it. A defense that had been shutting down Detroit's offense. Amon-Ra St. Brown, nothing. Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, shut down the 3 top performers for the Detroit Lions. And obviously Detroit was already able to that without Sam Laporta. The Goff was accurate. They weren't able to get as much pressure on Goff in the fourth quarter as they were early in the game. Jack Sawyer had an excellent game in his first start for TJ Watt. That was huge to get 2 wins without TJ. Maybe can sit the rest of the regular season and be fresh for the playoffs. We'll see. But they get into scoring territory. Get to the 1-yard line, under a minute left. And I'm thinking, okay, this is going to be, my show tomorrow is going to lead with Tomlin's defense blowing it, with Tomlin's defense giving up over 30 once again. The fact that Tomlin was extremely flippant about using timeouts in the second half. Listen, I get you're leading, but with as explosive an offense this is, with the fact that your defense is without TJ, they can blow the game open at any point. And so I'm thinking, we're okay, we're just going to lose the game. We're at their mercy. touchdown to Amon-Ra St. Brown, but wait, he gets called back because of a pick play by Tess Law. I love Dan Campbell. I think Dan Campbell's done a great job calling the plays in the second half of this year, and the numbers bear that out. That said, I'm not exactly sure why Campbell didn't go to either Montgomery or to Gibbs there. If you're the bite kneecap team, that feels like the way you would go, but whatever. Didn't work. Penalties end up forcing Detroit back all of a sudden. Fourth down, game on the line, and there's controversy. Lions fans are pissed about it. Shout out to a good friend of mine, Hannah Cummings, who was on the show about a month ago. Diehard Lions fan. All the Lions fans who have been friends of the show for a long time, by the way. Pissed off. Well, we got robbed. It was ridiculous. Folks, watch this. I wish we could not get demonetized if we didn't show the clip, or if we showed the clip. Just go on YouTube. Don't leave the show quite yet, but go on YouTube and watch. Amon-Ra St. Brown. Is it by the letter of the law? Yes, he quite literally extends his arms, pushes Jalen Ramsey. Did Jalen Ramsey sell a little bit? Sure, but that's a veteran cornerback making a veteran cornerback move. He literally shoves Jalen Ramsey in order to get separation. By the way, people get mad. Well, he lateraled it to Goff. Bruh's forward progress was stopped. I know the refs initially called it a touchdown, after they had feel like a 5-minute conversation, which I'm glad they did. I'm glad they didn't rush to judgment. But that's obvious OPI. No questions asked. And but just a gutty win, with the addition of the Baltimore loss, which we'll get to later in the show. Just an awesome win. The win of the year for the Pittsburgh Steelers. You go on the road to Detroit. Listen, people saying the Lions are down this year. They've been alternating wins and losses for 2 months now, right? Because they lost last week to the Rams. Therefore, 7-point favorite at home. They're due for a W, especially against the Steelers with no TJ Watt all of a sudden. And Pittsburgh gets it done. Pittsburgh runs the football. Some of that is because of the unholy amount of injuries on Detroit's defense for now the second year in a row. But Aaron Rodgers talked about after the game. Talked about the Steelers just barely by the skin of their teeth getting out of Ford Field with a W.
I was a part of a game 13 years ago that had this kind of chaos.
So were we.
With some replacement referees, though. Just watching it now, looks like there's no PI. Looks like he's stopped. Forward progress is stopped. But a lot of crazy game. We had another PI on the touchdown. So happy to get a win. We played great in the second half on offense. Picked up our defense. And they came up with a big stop.
They did. And listen, man, if you guys could have seen, I've got an instant reaction video on IG, TikTok, YouTube Shorts. And that's about, I've got the terrible towel on my face, the hat half on my head. That's about how I was feeling. I probably threw this Steelers hat about 5 times in the final 5 minutes. That's usually how I express my frustration, just kind of tossing the hat. The towel I had to put down, twirl it. It wasn't working. Okay, put the towel down. And I feel like I was just going to outright collapse on my couch or watch the game. It was unbelievable. When Detroit gets the 1 yard line, I'm like, okay, we've lost the game. And kudos to the Steelers defense. By the skin of their teeth, they barely got it done. I got nervous, but
not so fast, my friends.
We got it done. That's what matters. So the Steelers, 9-6, 3-game winning streak, and all of a sudden, I got to admit, there's a part for me where it's like, okay, it would take an outright collapse to lose the division. So let's say that the Steelers got the AFC North in the bag, which would therefore mean the 4 seed. Listen, if we draw Buffalo in round 1, I'm nervous. I think, given what Buffalo just did to us just 3 weeks ago, oh my God, we got to play Josh Allen the first round. That's our reward for winning the division. I think we go out in round 1 yet again, and I'm calling for Tomlin's job at season's end. But if we draw a team, and I know they've played well lately, kudos to them, but matchups, that's what the playoffs are all about. That's what sports is all about. If you draw the Los Angeles Chargers in round 1, warm weather team coming to cold weather Pittsburgh, offensive lines beat up. TJ Watt, here's the key, and I kind of mentioned it. TJ Watt is dealing with the lung issue. All indications say he's going to come back. Probably isn't going to be back this week for Cleveland. You may not need him for week 18 against Baltimore, which would be great. If the Steelers can wrap up the division via a Ravens loss to the Packers or via a win in Cleveland, you get a bye week. You literally get a bye. You get to sit Aaron Rodgers, sit some of your veteran players, TJ Watt, and now you've got an elite pass rusher coming back in the playoffs with fresh legs. That could be a big-time asset for Pittsburgh. I've said it before the year. Did not have high expectations of this team. I had 7, 10, 8, 9, 9, and 8. Maybe make the playoffs. Maybe don't make the playoffs, just like every season has been in Pittsburgh for the last decade, it feels like. With that being said, If the season ends with the Steelers winning a playoff game for the first time since 2016, then I call that a successful season. It's not quite the standard that you want as a Steelers fan, but it's been better than it's been by a long shot. I'll take it. So, Steelers, big time W, baby. Let's go. All right, now I'll take off the towel. And actually, I'm not taking off the hat. I got to keep the hat on. Otherwise, my hair looks terrible, and take off the shades. Let's see what we got up here in the chat. Tyler Reddington on X, LFG, or on YouTube, LFG. Sal Rock, I'm fired up. Listen, Sal, I'm fired up too. This is, like I said, there's a few shows a year, and certainly during the football season, where it is just, I mean, again, with the exception of Dak and the Cowboys, because y'all know I'm a Dak Prescott fan. You see his bobblehead right there next to Santa Claus. Big Dak guy. I love Dak Prescott. With that being said, downer that his season is essentially over. There's no playoff football for the Cowboys. Beyond that, oh my gosh, it was a perfect weekend. And part of the reason that it was such a great weekend for me is because of what the Chicago Bears pulled off on Saturday night against the Green Bay Packers. I swear, it feels like it used to be like every other week, it's like, hey, game of the year. This is the game of the year. I feel like we said that maybe 3 times. We said that on Thursday when the Seahawks win in overtime against the Rams. We said that on Saturday with the Bears beating the Packers. And we said that yesterday with my Steelers beating the Lions. And even, the Sunday night game was great too. Not game of the year great, but it was great. We'll talk about the Patriots over the Ravens later. But part of the reason this weekend was so great for me is because of the guy I believed in from the jump as a generational talent, as the best quarterback prospect that we have seen since the great Andrew Luck, who, as we know, by situations that were not his fault, was not able to live up to what people thought he would be. Caleb Williams, though, a little bit of a different story. Comes to Chicago, bad coaching staff, bad offensive line. Well, what did they do? They got him a great coaching staff, and they got him a great offensive line. And down 10 points in the fourth quarter. Despite Green Bay losing Jordan Love, already had injuries to Micah Parsons, Zach Tom, guys like that. Like, Green Bay is battered by injuries right now. Down 10, you get a field goal. You get the good fortune, the 8% chance kicked in for Chicago of recovering an onside kick because Romeo Doubs bobbles it. I was talking to, shout out to one of my college professors, great dude, a huge Packers fan. And he was telling me after, he said, this literally reminds me exactly of the NFC Championship game against Seattle back in 2014 when Packers were up double digits, botched an onside kick, and lost on a bomb touchdown in overtime. It was very, very similar to that game. Dobbs bobbles the onside kick. Caleb, boom, 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 goes down. 4th down, throws it to Jade. What's the kid's name for the Chicago Bears? Jade, let's see. He was a young kid. He got called up, made his first 2 NFL catches. Jade Walker, who I think Caleb in 4th down looks like he's going to throw it away, and Jade Walker last second comes down with it, i.e. remind me a little bit, without the defenders in the picture, of Joe Montana to the late, great Dwight Clark in The Catch in the NFC Championship game between San Francisco and Dallas all those decades ago. Ends up throwing the game-winning touchdown to DJ Moore in overtime after a Packers fumble on 4th down. And before we kind of get into it, here was DJ Moore, fired up, as you might imagine, after the Bears with the shocking comeback against the Green Bay Packers. DJ Moore, ladies and gentlemen.
This has been such a challenging nemesis, the Packers against the Bears. I see the nod. Yeah. What does it mean to get this one, DJ?
Man, it means a lot. And at the end of the day, it's after Packers always.
That's right here! That's not there right here! Well done, DJ. Well done. Go and enjoy it.
Appreciate it. My boy!
The vibes are good in Chicago. And again, there's a lot of credit to be thrown around with this team. Coaching staff with Ben Johnson, who, again, I've said this over and over. If they want to split Coach of the Year in half between Ben Johnson and Mike Vrabel, heck, if they want to split it in 3, Ben Johnson, Mike Vrabel, Liam Cohen would have no problem. But all 3 took over not ideal jobs, but with really promising young talented quarterbacks. And look where all 3 are. We see all of them, I think at least we should, as Super Bowl contenders based on how wide open both of their conferences are. A lot of credit goes to Dennis Allen, who, now that the Bears defense gotten kind of healthy, all of a sudden look pretty good. They're forcing turnovers. They're putting the offense in short field situations. The run game's been great. The front office, kudos to them for being able to upgrade this offensive line the way that they have. But ultimately, means nothing if the quarterback can't do what he's supposed to do in the clutch. So let's show Caleb's numbers, for the of the course of the game against the Green Bay Packers. So here you go. Couple touchdowns, no picks, 55% completion. Again, Caleb's completion percentage, that's something he's got to work on the offseason. 280 total yards, 98.9 rating, 81 QBR from 0 to 100. Of course, he had the game-tying drive and the game-winning drive. But in the fourth quarter and overtime, in particular when the Bears were trailing by 10 points, the second Green Bay made that kick to make it 16-6. From that point on, here's Caleb Williams after trailing by 10 late in the fourth. 2 touchdowns, no picks. Again, not a great completion percentage, but 142 total yards, 115 passer rating. Of course, the Bears scored 13 unanswered points, the 10 at the end of regulation and the 6 that they got in OT on the game-winning touchdown to DJ Moore. Is that this is what happens for a franchise that was starved for a great quarterback. I mean, if you ask any Chicago Bears, who is our last great quarterback? The old-timers or the folks that are well-versed in Bears history say Sid Luckman. If you pulled 100 Gen Z, heck, maybe even Gen X, boomer football fans, do 15 of them know who Sid Luckman is? Like, that's how long it's been. Pre-Super Bowl era, since the Bears have had competence, or rather than elite quarterback running the ship. Well, now that's over. You've got your guy. You've got the dude who was the Heisman Trophy winner at USC, who's got the ridiculous arm strength, who's got the insanely quick release, who's mobile. Well, the drive to get the field goal to make it a one-score game, a lot of that was Caleb's legs, and he's shown over the course of the season. He's hard to bring down. He's faster than people give him credit for, and he's got legit weapons. DJ Moore, again, Adunze was out. Again, today, Walker had to step in and make some big plays. Obviously made the second biggest catch of the game, maybe the biggest catch, because the overtime touchdown catch doesn't happen if today Walker doesn't make that one in the back, right corner of the end zone. O-line's protected him well. And you can say, well, Jordan Love went down. Malik Willis stepped in. Listen, I saw Malik Willis live last year. Packers went to Nashville to take on the Titans. It was kind of, like a birthday gift for my sister, who's a big Packers fan. Shout out to her. But looked good in that game. Pretty good backup. Remember, he stepped in for Jordan Love last year against Jacksonville, led a game when he drive. Like, Malik Willis is a solid backup and played pretty well. So it's not like there was just drastic dip in play at quarterback. Willis played solid. And Caleb Williams, he was given an opportunity. None of this happens without the onside kick, no question about it. But when given the opportunity, stepped up and showed out. And this is one of the biggest things that used to drive me absolutely crazy during the draft process with this player is that, no one evaluating Caleb Williams ever once questioned natural ability. Oh my gosh, yes, his arm is insane. Oh, he moves great. He can make, there's a reason he got a lot of Mahomes comparisons. He kind of moves like Patrick, can make some of the throws, at least the college level, that Patrick has made in the NFL. There's a little bit of a playmaker-like quality to him, but I just don't like that he paints his nails. It just kind of bothers my masculinity a little bit. I don't think because he cried with his mom in the stands. Yeah, I'd rather, listen, I would rather that than being indifferent, than being a guy that Chicago Bears fans are very familiar with, Jay Cutler, where win-lose doesn't really affect me either way. I don't really particularly care. If you're so pissed at losing it moves you to tears, give me that. I've told the story. Kawhi Leonard hits the buzzer beating shot, Game 7, 2019. Ben Simmons, indifferent. Joel Embiid, sobbing. I said in that moment, give me Embiid. And he hasn't lived up to it necessarily, but more so than Ben Simmons. In other words, give me the guy that cares. Oh, the guy, take it or leave it. All of the draft evaluation of this player, or at least from a negative perspective, had nothing to do with his actual ability. Oh, he's not mentally tough. Well, to have 6-game winning drives, got to be pretty mentally tough. To get beat up in games, to have situations like against the Cincinnati Bengals. Remember that comeback? Bears are offense is rolling. Of course they are. They're playing the Bengals defense. And all of a sudden, Joe Flacco gets hot. Bengals recover an onside kick. And it's like, oh my God, we're going to lose the game. Caleb, we got this. Take a deep breath. Making the plays to Colson Loveland. Making the plays against the Giants when he's not having his best performance in that game. Against the Raiders, against Washington. Like, you could just list the comebacks. This is what this guy's done. And so you're seeing it all come together in Chicago. And I'll be honest, man. I said during the preseason that when there was all this, the connection with Ben Johnson, Caleb Williams isn't going to work. And I said over and over and over during August, during training camp. it's going to be a little bumpy to start. It is. Ben Johnson's never coached a quarterback like Caleb. Caleb's never played with for a coach like Ben Johnson. Around midseason, it would click, and you're seeing that right now. Now the Bears, slim chance, but a chance to get the 1 seed in the NFC. Now it feels like that's going to go to somebody in the NFC West. Obviously, the Niners need to win tonight to keep their hopes alive for that. Seattle's in the driver's seat. The Rams still have a chance to get the top seed in the NFC. But it feels like the NFC North is kind of a foregone conclusion at this point. And so, my gosh, if you want to give Coach of the Year to Vrabel, won't have a problem. Liam Cohen, won't have a problem. Ben Johnson, won't have a problem. But when we talk about the development of high upside guys, Ben Johnson's gotten the most out of Caleb because of the run game, because of the offensive line. Let Caleb do the rest. Let Caleb be the playmaker that he is. Let him go show people, immature, not sure if we can trust him to be mentally tough. Yeah, it's 6 fourth quarter comebacks. I'd say he's pretty mentally tough. This was Caleb Williams talking about Ben Johnson after the game.
I got the best coach in the world. Let's put it that way. And we have the best coaching staff in the world. And so you put the talent with the coaches and the people that care. You can strive for anything. You can reach anything. You can go after any goal. And when you go out there in that football field, your belief is at an all-time high between players, between coaches, and you have outcomes like this.
That's who the Chicago Bears have been all year. Resilient team, a team that has won ugly games, with their defense. Again, Dennis Allen, not a very good head coach, great DC. Those returns are starting to show for the Bears now that they're getting some of their big-time defensive players back. Tremaine Edmonds, like they're getting help in the secondary. Like this is a scary freaking team, man. It is. I mean, it feels like right now they're the 2 seed right now. We imagine that's about where they'll be come playoff time. Who's the 7 seed? Could be Green Bay by some miracle. Detroit. I guess Detroit in theory. Listen, there's familiarity with Ben Johnson, but that's something else, man. Dan Campbell's done a good job calling plays in Detroit. It doesn't quite look the same. And Campbell's a great coach, no question. But he is the 2020s version, Ben Johnson is, of Sean McVay. Sean McVay got the Rams job in 2017, Ben Johnson 2025 for the Bears, where it's innovative. Now, I think Ben Johnson's a better play caller than Sean McVay is. But innovative, smart, intuitive on the latest trends in the NFL, but also hard-nosed. Before he coaches a game in Chicago, he's out here ripping Caleb Williams to the media. So he's kind of old school in that regard, but it's a great play caller. He knows how to get the best out of his guys. Man, that's a culture setter in Chicago, and they're going to be good for years to come. Matter of fact, I think they're going to run that division for years to come. I really, really do. Green Bay's well run. Detroit's well run. Minnesota is well run. They just don't have a quarterback right now. I with this high upside of a quarterback and that coach, my gosh, and a front office that spent money in all the right places, brilliant. Big time win for the Bears. And as for Green Bay, a gut punch, softened a little bit by the fact that you're welcome, Green Bay fans, that the Steelers beat the Lions yesterday, but just an insane game. Great primetime Thursday game, great primetime, Saturday night game, Steelers, Lions, and at the end of the day, you had Patriots and Ravens. It was unbelievable stuff. We're going to take a 1-minute break. Again, could not be more excited to be in studio today. Got all kinds of stuff to talk about. When we come back, though, I already gloated about Caleb, but I've been doing that for a while now. Oh, I'm really about to gloat about the other young quarterback that I believed in from day one, even against all the haters. And boy, he is starting to show up and show out. Talk about Trevor Lawrence and talk about as well the Patriots and Ravens game, college football playoff, week 16 NFL recap, all that stuff on the other side of this 1-minute break, folks. Do not go anywhere. Welcome back to Carving It Up, everybody. I appreciate y'all for tuning in on just a jam-packed Monday show. What a great sports weekend it was. I mean, honestly, you had college football playoff. The games we thought would be good were the games that we thought were going to be blowouts were that. Again, we'll talk about all those things in about, I'd say, about a half hour from now. Ravens and Patriots, so much to take away from that. However, while most of America saw Steelers and Lions, and of course, I was one of those many, many people, I watched I really kept my eye on two of the afternoon games. The other one was Falcons and Cardinals. Like, Bijan Robinson had a good game. Kirk was good, but that's about all. So Michael Wilson made a great play. And then the other one was Texas Raiders, which was closer than people thought it would be, but kind of knew Houston was going to win that. So the two afternoon games, Steelers, Lions, paid attention to that. And then you had Jaguars versus Broncos. So let me frame it this way. So at the time of we're doing this live show, it's December 22nd. We're 3 days away from Christmas. And we're right smack dab in the middle of the holiday season. So it's hard to think of, it's not hard to think necessarily, but it's Thanksgiving feels like a long time ago, right? With the stress of the holidays and everything. But just take yourself back to that moment. Sitting around with family, carving that turkey, eating some pumpkin pie. Ooh, some good pumpkin pie, ladies and gentlemen. Maybe arguing about politics. I don't know. Whatever you were doing with your family on Thanksgiving Day. Take yourself back to that moment. You there? All right. From that point to today, Trevor Lawrence has been the best quarterback in the National Football League. Let's show what he did yesterday against the Denver Broncos because he was nothing short of sensational against the best pass rush in the entire league. Not one, not two, not three, 4 total touchdowns, no picks, 63.9% completion, 279 passing yards, 115 rating, QBR 0 to 100 of 87. But again, I just said, you're like, Bryson, that's a great game. It's a great defense. But he's been the best quarterback in well, let's show his numbers. Let's see what he's done in the last 4 games because those are pretty sensational. 14 total touchdowns, no interceptions, 288.5 total yards per game, a 120 passer rating. This is in his last 4 games. 83.9 QBR, 0 to 100. The Jags are averaging 35.8 points a game, and they've won 4 in a row. You're like, yeah, that's amazing, but best in the league. Yeah, best in the league. He's best in almost all of the numbers. First in touchdowns, that's his first. It really means last in interceptions. He hasn't thrown a pick in the last 4 games. 6th in total yards per game, 1st in rating, 1st in QBR, 1st in team points per game had the Jaguars scored, and they are, of course, 4-0. That is number 1 in the National Football League. Trevor Lawrence is the truth, and I said it on day 1. And I said coming into this season that while I have seen the obvious talent, I mean, the arm strength, he moves well, size, he's 6'6", see over the offensive line, led a 27-0 comeback, 4th greatest in the history of the NFL playoffs, to beat the Los Angeles Chargers. Led them from, I think they were like 4-8 to 9-8 to winning the division. The year after, the Jags going into December were the 1 seed in the AFC. Suffers an injury, they're not the same team. And then last year, he wasn't very good. Also dealt with injuries. I said, I may see the natural talent. There's a reason he was the best quarterback in high school and the best quarterback in college and the number 1 overall pick in the 2021 NFL draft out of Clemson. But at some point, we do need to see that consistent production. And there have been moments this year. And then there have been 3 turnover games, moments where he's not terribly accurate. He's making bad decisions with the football, and he's throwing out. The thing I've got on him this year is for throwing way too many hospital balls, what they're called, where you're leading a receiver into a defender. And I said before the year started, okay, Trevor, you've been paid like you're an elite quarterback. This is year 5. We need to start kind of seeing something. Liam Cohen's your coach. Have you seen the Baker Mayfield Bucks without Liam Cohen? He's a great coach. You've got 2 excellent weapons, Travis Hunter and Brian Thomas Jr. Great running game with Travis Etienne. Excellent defense, Trayvon Walker and Josh Hines-Allen. What you going to do? I picked him to win the division. And there were moments this year, it's not looking so good. And Brian Thomas is in and out of the lineup. And Travis Hunter's gone for the year. You have to trade for Jacoby Myers. You have this kid, Parker Washington, who steps up in a big way. Travis Etienne's been great. Devin's been great. And Trevor Lawrence has done his part. He has shown. He showed it in the second half of 2022 by leading the Jags to a playoff win. Was shown it through most of 2023 when they were the top seed in the conference before an injury derailed his season. And now this year, He's been paid like he's elite, and he's showing that he's playing elite football. Folks, Trevor Lawrence is having one of the greatest 4-game stretches in the history of the quarterback position, and we can show the numbers. Guys to, go and put up the graphic, guys to have 10 or more touchdowns and no turnovers in a 2-game span in NFL history. Pretty good quarterbacks in that list. Mahomes in 2018, Breeze in 2019, Allen in 2024, Lawrence in 2025. Pretty good list. 10 touchdowns, no turnovers in a 2-game span. What Trevor has done such a great job of in this 4-game streak, and as the season has progressed, the upside plays, the great plays, they've kind of been there all season long. I mean, remember that game against Kansas City on Monday Night Football where he falls down, stumbles, runs it in, but right before that, he had thrown a dime, I'm pretty sure it was to Brian Thomas Jr., can't remember, to get them into scoring territory before he ran it in a few plays later. And then the lows of multiple turnovers, and you're not really seeing that. And Cincinnati, him and Cohen aren't on the same page. The thing that Trevor has gotten really great at, and it's reflected in the numbers, he's eliminated the bad plays. He's eliminated the hospital balls. He's eliminated the scratch your head, what did he see on that play, interceptions. Some of that, I think you got to give credit to Liam Cohen, no question about it. Some of that's a credit to a highly underrated Jags offensive line. But no Travis Hunter. Brian Thomas Jr. has been in and out of the lineup with injury. They traded Tank Bigsby to Philadelphia. Like, it has not been a perfect offense by any stretch of the imagination. It's a division that featured a red-hot Colts team prior to the Daniel Jones injury, a red-hot Texans team that I think actually still controls their fate for the 1 seed with the best defense in football, arguably. And it's Jacksonville who's leading that division. I said this about the Bears earlier, and I'll say it opposite conference about the Jags. Boy, you do not want to draw them in the playoffs. With that pass rush, Trayvon Walker. By the way, the Jags second in the NFL in takeaways. So they turn the football over on defense. They're well-coached. Liam Cohen's done an unbelievable job. I said this all the way back in week 1 when they played Carolina. Won that game comfortably. All of a sudden, it looks like a pretty good win, right? Is that in the red zone, the field has shrunk so much, right? So the red zone, a team's success in the red area is almost completely determined by coaching, by offensive coaching. How can you create enough separation in that small of a window? That, to me, determines how truly great of an offensive coach you are. I remember a few years ago, when the Chiefs beat Philly in the Super Bowl 2022 season, Andy Reid, inside like the 5-yard line, had guys wide open. I mean, by like 5-7 yards open. Andy Reid's one of the greatest offensive coaches of all time. Liam Cohen was getting guys open in Jacksonville right off the bat in the red zone by 2-3 yards, which is huge in the NFL. So a lot of this is coaching, but ultimately it falls on the player with the expectations via his pay, via the investments of the Jags organization into the offense, into the coaching staff, and when he's needed to play his best ball, he's done it. Because I heard a lot of folks last week, because I gave Trevor a lot of love for his 6-touchdown performance against the Jets. It's like, the Jets, come on, they might be the worst team in football. They've mailed it in. They're probably tanking. They're failing for Fernando, because we're trying to get to catch on to this show. Fail for Fernando Mendoza. What you going to do against the big bad Denver Broncos, who coming into yesterday had won 12 consecutive games at home in Denver? Oh, I'm just going to casually drop 34 in their heads. That's what. I'm going to continue a stretch of football that has been matched only by future Hall of Famers, Breeze, Mahomes, and Allen. 10 touchdowns, no turnovers in 2-game stretch. First in virtually every category in the last 4 games. Again, since we consumed our delicious Thanksgiving dinner, no player has played the quarterback position. Not Stafford, not Allen, not Burrow, nobody. Not Dak, nobody. Not Drake May has played the position at a higher level than one Trevor Lawrence. And I saw it from the beginning. Listen, these scouts, and I'm not a scout, but these scouts know what they're talking about. There's a reason. There's busts. There's always busts in the NFL. But you see Caleb go 1 in 2024. He's the most gifted. Now, Drake May's been the best quarterback from that class. I think Caleb's absolutely number 2 over Jane Daniels because of injuries. And then Trevor Lawrence, and what looking back is a pretty weak quarterback draft. Zach Wilson, Justin Fields, Mac Jones, Trey Lance. Far and away the best QB in the draft, no question. And has shown himself, I'm elite. When I'm healthy, I'm elite. Playoff win in 2022, down 27-0, by the way, in order to get it. 2023, prior to the injury, 1 seed in the conference going into the final month of the year. And now this year, the Jags actually still control their fate for the 1 seed in the AFC. They're going to need some help. They're going to need New England to lose, Denver to lose to the Chargers. If that occurs, if I'm getting my facts correct, Jacksonville's the top seed in the AFC. I don't expect that to happen. I don't think that's going to happen. But I'll tell you what, if you're Buffalo, from a matchup perspective, and I say this as a Steelers fan, I love my Steelers. I think if we draw the Chargers, great news for us. If Buffalo draws Jacksonville in the first round, I'm picking Jacksonville. I just am. I think Trevor throws a party on that Bills defense. And I think Josh is under duress the whole game because of Trayvon Walker, Josh Hines Allen, and guys like that. Trevor Lawrence, after the W against the Denver Broncos on the road, showing what he and the Jaguars are capable of.
Trevor, 6 straight now for your Jags. If people aren't paying attention, they better start. What do you guys continue to show the country week in and week out?
We don't really care if people are paying attention. I think that's what we're showing people. But it's been fun. Obviously we got a couple big ones left, so we got to take it 1 week at a time. This is where the fun starts, and we just got to keep rolling.
This is wait a second. Play that bite one more time. Play it one more time.
Trevor, 6 straight now for your Jags. If people aren't paying attention, they better start. What do you guys continue to show the country week in and week out?
We don't really care if people are paying attention. I think that's what we're showing people. But it's been fun. Obviously we got a couple big ones left, so we got to take it 1 week at a time. This is where the fun starts, and we just got to keep.
This is where wait a second. I know I've called Jackson Dart Anakin Skywalker, but does he not kind of sound a little bit and have quotes a little bit like Anakin? I mean, he's even got one of Anakin's most iconic quotes.
This is where the fun begins.
Maybe I'm going to start calling Trevor Anakin, or as I thought about doing before the show, when Tom Brady, and I'm not comparing Trevor Lawrence to Tom Brady, of course, but when Tom Brady was winning Super Bowls and then he went through that decade drought, no one considered, well, maybe a few people, but no one considered him the GOAT. That was kind of like Montana's title. Like when you think Tom Brady, what's the first nickname you think of? GOAT. My nickname for him the last few years of his career was the Great Outlier. Don't compare your 40-year-old quarterbacks to Tom Brady. It does not make sense what this guy's doing at his age. The Great Outlier. But if you had to poll 100 NFL fans circa 2012, 2013, what's Tom Brady's nickname? What they would, and I haven't heard Tom call this in a decade, probably since he became the GOAT, because the GOAT is just better. Tom Terrific. I remember that used to be thrown around a lot when I first became an NFL fan. Tom Terrific. Well, I think Tom will settle for GOAT as his nickname. So why don't we give it to Trevor? Trevor Terrific. Does it not ring a bell? Maybe we could sell some t-shirts on Carving Up. I don't know, but it works. But Trevor Lawrence playing his best ball of the year. The Jags are playing their best ball of the year. 6-game winning streak. Trevor's the best quarterback in football post-Thanksgiving. Unbelievable stuff from my guy. Speaking of a guy playing outstanding football on a team that's on a roll, the New England Patriots and Drake Maye get a W last night, a comeback W over the Baltimore Ravens, 28-24. There's a lot of storylines for this game, particularly on the Baltimore side, which we'll get into in a few minutes. Let's focus on New England. So I said coming into the week, I picked New England to win, and thank you very much, Patriots. You were my final, if I were a Batman pick, +3.5, and you guys cover for me, so thank you very much. But I said this was going to say a lot about where New England was truly at as a contender in the AFC. It's like at halftime of the game against the Bills, it's like, oh my God, like they're clearly the best team in the NFL. They're up 21-0 on Josh Allen. Like we know Josh is going to respond, and then the defense collapses. Outside of one big play from Trayvon Henderson, the offense doesn't really get rolling. Drake Maye has a late pick. It's like, oh gosh, they played a team in their weight class and they kind of withered a little bit at home. What are they going to do? On the road, a desperate Ravens team. Ravens are as good as the Patriots, but it's still a hard place to go win. And you could say the Lamar injury, but Lamar wasn't playing great before that. And Tyler Huntley, we talk about good backups, Malik Willis. Tyler Huntley is one of those guys, 2022 Pro Bowler, of course, as we all remember. And down double digits in the fourth quarter, I'm thinking, God, this team's kind of fraudulent. We may have to readjust our expectations. The Patriots, like, great year, but maybe we got a little too ahead of our expectations. Like, they're a good team, playoff team, might win a playoff game, but they are not a contender. And Drake Maye said, yeah, Bryson, shut up. Here's what I'm going to do. In this game against the Ravens defense, 2 touchdowns, did have 2 turnovers, but a 70% completion. Drake Maye is one of the most accurate quarterbacks in football. 380 passing yards, a 102.5 rating, QBR 0 to 100 of 83.5. And of course, he led the game when he drive down double digits, the fourth New England, storms to a comeback. So there's a lot of things that are going for this Patriots team. Obviously, they have an elite quarterback in Drake Maye, who I don't think should be the MVP this year. The fact of the matter is I saw this stat from Doug Clawson, who I quote off on the show is an elite statistician. But people saying Drake Maye should be MVP. He should be second. It's Stafford clearly. From Doug Clawson. Matt Stafford currently leads the NFL in pass yards, pass touchdowns, and passer rating. In the last half century, 3 quarterbacks have led all 3 of those categories in the same year. Brady in 07, Kurt Warner in 01, Marino in 84. All of them won MVP. Stafford's the MVP unless he just has a disastrous last 2 games of the season, which I don't anticipate. But with that being said, and this is one of the wildest stats, some of this speaks to how weak New England's schedule was, and some of this is the Patriots just weren't very good last year, is that Drake Maye has never had a come-from-behind win, which is a shocking stat, but it is true. Never had a come-from-behind W as a starter in the NFL. Young player, but it's still a surprising stat that he got it in December of his second year. But he got it. The throw to, what's the kid's name? I think Johnson. I mean, there are probably 3-4 quarterbacks at most that can make that throw. Down the sideline, right over the outreach arms of a defense back to where only a receiver can get it, right there at the pylon to give your guy an opportunity to catch it and get right in the end zone. That's elite quarterbacking at its finest. The 4th down throw that he made, in that game, Stephon Diggs stepping up and making catches. The movement, listen, maybe it's because Drake Maye is pale in his skin tone. Maybe that's what it is, but he is a better athlete than people gave him credit for coming into that draft process in 2024 out of North Carolina. New England has a better than average receiving core. Diggs has been great for this team this year, but think about some of the circumstances going against Drake Maye. Travion Henderson gets hurt. The offensive line is not having its best game of the season. There's some, especially in the 4th quarter, and I'm a big believer, do not blame the refs. That's loser behavior. You had multiple opportunities to win. That said, man, some of these officiating calls, be it the roughing the passer, be it that they should have called when they go low on Drake Maye, and then the blatant missed pass interference call on Marlon Humphrey late in the game. Kudos to New England. They overcame that. That's what true championship contenders do. They overcome stuff that doesn't go their way, but that's what they showed. The defense gets stops late on Tyler Huntley. Some of that was aided by poor coaching on Baltimore's part, but Drake Maye talked after the game about kind of the mentality of the team, but in particular the leadership qualities that Stephon Diggs has brought to the table. Drake Maye on Stephon Diggs after the game.
Yeah, Diggs, he, people we have no idea what, he means to this team. He's a leader. He's been great in the locker room. He wants football in his hand and delivers.
Started that first game in Buffalo, and it's just
deserves.
Yeah, and that's something that is also going to New England's favor, is the fact that there's something to be said about having good vibes, about the team loving each other. Like, listen, you don't have to be best friends with your teammates. Different sport, but Shaq and Kobe, we know what their relationship was, and guess what? They rammed through the NBA 3 straight years. Like, you don't have to be best friends, but it doesn't hurt if you are. When you see some of those post-game shots of Vrabel, and I've said this over and over about Vrabel, I've said it for years, especially this year since he's the Patriots coach now. Vrabel is all the best of Belichick without all the bad parts of Belichick. Belichick was this, wizard, mastermind, a guy who was ahead of his time as it relates to being able to manipulate the clock, manipulate rules to go in New England's favor. Vrabel's that same way. Listen, his clock management in stretches in that 4th quarter and throughout the season, I found to be brilliant. I'm a big stickler for clock management, and Vrabel has been outstanding at that. But he's without all the bad parts of Belichick, where it's doesn't really believe that much in camaraderie at the team and all of these things, and not really close to his players. Brady and Belichick never had dinner in 20 years together. How does that happen ever? Like, I'm not saying your quarterback got to be, best buds in the whole wide world, but a dinner with your starting franchise quarterback, who happens to be the greatest quarterback in the history of the game, like, feels like that'd help the relationship. You see Vrabel, hard-nosed. I'm sure he was, especially after blowing a 21-0 lead to Buffalo, division rival, chance to wrap up the AFC East. I'm sure he was coaching those guys hard this week. But after the game, hey, good job, man. Back slaps, butt slaps, whole thing, fist bumps, high fives, like brings a great energy to the table. And that's what you've got to have. Ben Johnson is an offense coach, but he's kind of the same way. Like there's something to be said about a guy who can coach guys hard. Great players want to be coached hard. Steph Curry wants to be coached hard by Steve Kerr. Brady wanted to be coached hard by Belichick. They want to be coached. But they also want to know, hey, coach has got my back. Players didn't always feel that way in New England with Belichick. Matter of fact, in many cases, they felt the opposite. Players in New England now, they know, oh, Vrabel's got our back. He's the man. He loves us. And that matters for a team like New England that's trying to compete for a Super Bowl championship, and that was absolutely outstanding. On the side of the Ravens. So obviously, as a Steelers fan, I was overjoyed. As the host of Carving It Up, I was overjoyed because New England clinched my first 3-0 week. And it's kind of sad that it came in week 16, but hey, I'll take it while I can take it. That New England clinched my first undefeated, if I were a bet man, weekend. As a Steelers fan, I was overjoyed because, oh my gosh, we could be division champions next weekend. Either the Ravens lose to the Packers, and if they don't, okay, just go on the road and beat the terrible Cleveland Browns. And then we win the division. And we get a week off before the playoffs, which is huge for a veteran team like ours. That has to be the nail in the coffin of John Harbaugh's Baltimore Ravens tenure. And listen, it's a great run. What was he there? 18 years, won a Super Bowl in 2012, with Joe Flacco, and that was Ray Lewis's farewell season, and got to multiple AFC championship games before that, against Pittsburgh, against New England, got to an AFC championship with Lamar as the MVP 2023, loss to the Chiefs, no shame in that, although the game plan was sus. It's time to move on. I said back in week 1, and we talk about, I say all the time in the show, the two biggest overreaction Mondays of the entire NFL season. The Monday after week 1, the Monday after the Super Bowl. Because it's the first and last thing we see, where it's kind of in the middle. Oh, okay, there's some positives to draw off of, there's some negatives to draw off of. Like, we have a clearer picture as the season progresses. But because the NFL comes back in week 1, and we're just so starved for football, we have these big takes. And after the Super Bowl's over, it's the last game of the year. More people watch that than any other game in American sports. People are going to have big, boisterous takes. But I said after week 1, when they blew that game to Buffalo on Sunday Night Football, I said, yeah, I'm out on the Ravens. I'm out. And I thought they were a contender coming this season. I did. Heck, Vegas had them as a Super Bowl favorite. After the game, I said, yep, I'm done. I've seen enough. If that's in you to blow a game like that, I know Josh is great. Josh is a supremely gifted quarterback. You cannot lose in the fashion that Baltimore did. Like up 15, late in the fourth. You cannot lose that game. And the fact of the matter is, this has been we've talked about in the show for years, this has been a trend for years for John Harbaugh and the Baltimore Ravens. Go ahead and show the numbers. It's been bad. Since 2021, the Ravens have lost 12 games when leading by 7 or more in the fourth quarter. They have lost 18 games, folks, when leading by 10 or more points in the second half. Since 2022, they've lost 7 games when leading by 2 scores. That can't happen if you're a Baltimore Ravens fan. And I understand the injury to Lamar Jackson early. Again, Lamar has been healthy since he went down against Kansas City with that hamstring. It's been hamstring, foot. Now it's his back that he had to leave the game for in this case. But Tyler Huntley came in. Tyler Huntley played decent football, but 2 major instances of, that's coaching. What is Mark Andrews doing at the end of the half? What is he? For those who didn't see the play, Ravens are backed up deep in their own territory. There's 15 seconds left, something like that, left in the half. Game's tied. Hey, Lamar Jackson's out. Maybe he'll come back in the second half. We're tied with New England. Feel good. Let's go to the locker room, make some adjustments. Let's go win this game. Mark Andrews makes a catch, throws a lateral with time left on the clock. It would be bad if there was double zeros. That'd be bad. There's time left on the clock. Like, what are you doing? That's coaching. That's lack of discipline. And then just Derrick Henry has a massive game. Is running all over New England. Runs for that touchdown to put the Ravens up, double figures in the fourth quarter. And he doesn't play snap the rest of the way. And John Harbaugh's explanation afterwards was, well, we like to have a rotation with him and with Mitchell. Dang that rotation. You have to have this game or you are almost certainly going to miss the playoffs. With no Lamar Jackson, get Derrick Henry out there. He's shredding New England. And he's not on the field for the most two important drives of your season? And I think there's an element, man, when they are, we didn't talk about it much on the show, but when the Ravens were, I think they were like, 1-5 to start the year, and they were getting rid of the table tennis, the ping pong table and the gaming systems, and people kind of joked, oh, they took the toys out of the locker room. Apparently that wasn't even John Harbaugh's idea. I think it was actually Lamar's idea, according to the reports, according to some of the players. That tells me that the locker room isn't in the best shape. You're blowing double-digit leads left and right, more so than any team in the entire NFL. Lamar's missing practices under weird circumstances. He gets sick every year, and he's not healthy. He's in and out of practices, and there's not a lot of transparency from the Ravens. It's just a lot of weird with this team. And let's be honest, man. If you look at if you look at the Ravens are at in standings, folks, I checked. They had the same record as the Minnesota Vikings. They're 7-8. Like they're not very good, obviously, and most of it comes back to their coach. If the offense is rolling, the defense is bad. The defense is rolling, the offense is bad. A lack of complementary football, and this sounds like coach speak and quarterback speak. It sounds cliche, but it's a real thing, man. When your defense isn't showing up to the party and your offense is, and vice versa, there's a disconnect. There's a sense of, hey, you aren't showing up for me. There's kind of a little bit of animosity in the locker room. It's up to the coach to be able to, because what's John Harbaugh's a special teams coach. And the Ravens special teams has been great for years. But outside of that, what is his, pardon the expression, but specialty? He doesn't call plays. He's not over the defense or over the offense. I'm not against hiring special teams coaches, as rare as it is, to be your head coach. But what does John Harbaugh do that makes the Ravens a better football team? And there also is an element of, man, and I've talked about this with Tomlin in Pittsburgh, but it's probably worse in the case of Baltimore. Man, sometimes your voice just runs hollow. That's what happened with Andy Reid in Philadelphia. It's okay. You won a Super Bowl there. You go down in Ravens history. You and Brian Billick is the only two coaches to win a Super Bowl for the Baltimore Ravens. You coached them to multiple AFC championship games. Lamar Jackson had some of the best success of his career, 2 MVPs, under your coach. It wasn't your coach specifically, but you were the head coach of the team. But year after year, if you had to take one team in the NFL, outside of maybe the Cowboys, but I've always said the Cowboys' talent was overrated. They were carried by Dak. If you had to take one team in the last half decade that folks think has underachieved the most, you could say Buffalo, but Buffalo's been to multiple AFC championship. Buffalo's excuse? Yeah, we just keep running to Kansas City. What do you want us to do? Ravens have only run to Kansas City once. Like Lamar Jackson, some of this is on Lamar, has 2 playoff wins. In the last 5 seasons, or let's do the math actually, the last 7 seasons, 5 of those you have not had a playoff win. Like that's since Lamar became an MVP caliber player, that's been the reality of the Baltimore Ravens. And listen, I think John Harbaugh probably gets a job elsewhere, just like Andy. I don't think he's not as good of a coach as Andy Reid, but just like Andy Reid did. I mean, Philly fires him. 5 seconds later, he's hired by Kansas City. Same case will be true if Mike Tomlin were let go by Pittsburgh. But it's run its course in Baltimore. And I think just the lack of feel for the game, taking Derrick Henry out, the mistake by Mark Andrews, like, do you see the Patriots making those mistakes? Do you see the Bears making those mistakes? The Jags, the Niners, like the Rams, the well-coached teams in this league, Seattle, you don't see them do that. In a game, you're out here throwing backwards passes at the end of halves in your own territory. Shannon Sharp says all the time, if you coach it, you condone it. And that's right. Oh, come on. It's, boy. Dale D'Antoni 777 says that the refs gave the Steelers that game. And I would, if he is still in the chat, I would like to know how that is the case, because Detroit gets down the 1-yard line. Clear pick play by Tesla that negates the Amon-Ra St. Brown touchdown. And then on the 4th and goal play, did St. Brown push off? It's like, I remember talking after the Super Bowl between Kansas City and Philly, the first KC-Philadelphia Super Bowl, when there was a lot of controversy. I think it was James Bradbury grabbed Juju Smith-Schuster. That wasn't pass interference. Did he grab him? Did he impede his progress? Then it's pass interference. Like it's by the letter of the law, that's a penalty. And by the way, the refs called a pretty tight game. Like they called the Steelers for some pick plays. Like they were fair on both sides of it. And even still, St. Brown was wrapped up. Like forward progress had been stopped. Not exactly sure why the refs called it a touchdown afterwards. To me, that was the more confusing call than anything. But yeah, that was no question a crazy wild ending in Detroit. All right. Are we going to do Week 16 recap? All right, let's go into it. Week 16 recap around the National Football League. So if I can go and pull up some of the games. So Philadelphia, Saturday evening, getting the W over the Washington Commanders by a final score of 29-18. Philadelphia clinches the NFC East. This is the first time that we've had a back-to-back NFC East champion in 20 years, when it was also the Philadelphia Eagles, the Donovan McNabb, Andy Reid Eagles, who accomplished that feat. But listen, the offense looks like it's rolling again. Now, some of this is you're playing the Raiders defense last week. You're playing an awful Washington defense this past week. But listen, it's 10-7. It's not looking so good for Philly. Jalen Hurts made some big-time throws to Devontae Smith. Dallas Goedert was great. A.J. Brown was involved. Saquon Barkley showed a little bit of the old signs of Saquon Barkley that we saw last year. This year, he's been a shell of that. Showed some signs of that Saquon Barkley greatness in that game against Washington. So Philadelphia's going to win the NFC East. They're likely going to be the 3 seed in the NFC, which would probably put them against third place in the NFC West, it could be any of the teams. Rams, San Francisco, Seattle. That's a tough matchup for Philadelphia. I honestly don't know where I go in that game in terms of a pick. Depends on the matchup, depends on injuries, a lot of things. But kudos to the Eagles. Because if they had lost that game, they still should win the NFC East, or would have been favored heavily to win the NFC East. But then it's, if Dallas beats the Chargers, which they didn't, we'll get to them in a few minutes. And then Dallas plays Washington on Christmas, and if they win that game and then we lose to Buffalo, it's like, holy crap, we could blow this thing. So kudos to Philadelphia for a big-time second half, and Nick Sirianni for having his guys ready to go, making halftime adjustments to win that football game. What else do we have? Obviously already talked about Packers and Bears. Jets, Saints. I got to say, man, I'm not willing to go all the way yet. I might have been wrong about this Tyler Shuck guy. I wasn't big on him coming out of Louisville. There's injury history there. He played a long time in college. I'm generally not a huge fan of prospects like that, because it's like, are they closer to their ceiling already if they've spent 5, 6, in some cases 7 years in college? Saints have won 3 in a row, and Tyler Shuck's been good in all of them. Yesterday, the fact that Kellen Moore, and who I don't think is a very good coach, to be fair, but the fact that the Saints coaching staff and Kellen Moore trust Tyler Shuck to throw the ball 49 times, that says a lot. As a rookie making, what is this, his 5th or 6th start? That says a lot about their belief in the kid. So New Orleans is now, well out of the top, the top 3 or so in terms of teams that want to get Fernando Mendoza, Dante Moore, any other quarterbacks that might emerge in the 2026 class. And I think if you're a New Orleans fan, you're like, yeah, let's run this thing back with Shuck next year. He's sure enough. He's got a cool, theme song, and let's see what the kid has. And as for the Jets, they are failing for Fernando. Let's put it that way. Up next, the Bills over the Browns, 23-20. Myles Garrett did not get the sack record. He got a half sack on Josh Allen, but did not break the sack record. He very well could do that against my Steelers this week. But another reason the Bills have absolutely zero excuses to not win the AFC this year, because I don't even think they're the best team in the AFC, but there have been years the Chiefs weren't the best team in the AFC, and they still won the AFC because Patrick Mahomes is an all-world quarterback, and I assume Josh Allen, the same expectations would be levied on him, and I think they should be, because I think Josh is great. My point is, Josh does not always have to be Superman in order for them to win, so long as that running game's working. They've got one of the best offensive lines in football. James Cook is easily a top 3 back in the game. That was Buffalo's running game that won it there. So if you're a Bills fan, you could say, the Browns are bad, but it's on the road. There's the buzz about Myles Garrett might break the sack record. You noticed, and shout out to Joe Brady, man. And I wonder if Arthur Smith's going to do the same thing next week. You could tell Joe Brady, offensive coordinator for the Bills, every play was opposite Myles Garrett. Whether it's running the ball with James Cook to the right side away from Myles Garrett, whether it's quick throws by Josh, Joe Brady's like, Josh Allen, you are not going to be on that Hall of Fame clip of Myles Garrett breaking the single-season sack record the way that Brett Favre was, with Michael Strahan infamously. So, that's We're not going to do that to you. So kudos to the Bills for that game plan. Myles Garrett's obviously still going to get it. I hope he doesn't get it against Pittsburgh. I hope it comes in week 18. Who would that come against? That come against Burrow. Shoot. I don't want to see Burrow get hit after all the hits he's taken. So, but he'll still get it. As for Shedeur Sanders, mixed bag. Had some moments. Had a great first drive. I think I didn't have the sound on when this happened, but I think he might have lost his nail on his pinky. He had a bloodied up pinky. He had to come out of the game for a bit. Dylan Gabriel came in briefly. It looks, maybe my eyes were playing tricks on me. It looked like the nail was hanging off the finger. Like it was kind of tough to see. And he didn't look quite the same the rest of the game. Had 2 picks, neither of which were really his fault. The ball got tipped, but kind of, again, a mixed bag for Shedeur Sanders. We'll see how he does in the last 2 games against Pittsburgh and against a bad Bengals defense. That to me is where I'm going to say, okay, last start of the year, Cincinnati stinks. They're the worst defense in football. Let's see what you do if you are Shedeur Sanders. Up next, this was the upset of the week. I couldn't believe that you could get this as an upset. I know the Titans are bad, but 26-9 over the Chiefs. So I know the Titans are bad. 3.5-point dog at home to the Mahomes-less Chiefs. I know folks are like, Gardner Minshew's good, which thankfully the initial reports were that Gardner Minshew tore his ACL. Schefter came out today and said that's not the case. The ACL's intact, which is, obviously great news for Gardner. Hope he heals up quickly. But now Kansas City's on their 3rd string quarterback. It's a disaster. I'll say this for the Titans, man. Because Cam Ward looked pretty, he'd struggled. I mean, he had struggled the first few games of the year. Looked good in moments against the Browns. I thought played quite well last week against the Niners, and then was solid against the Kansas City Chiefs defense. Had a couple touchdowns passing, 75% completion, 122 rating. Moved well, like you saw. Okay, that's why he was the first overall pick in 2025. It's just it's similar to Caleb. Cam to me is not the prospect Caleb is or was, but if Tennessee's able to hit on a head coach, that can get the most out of Cam Ward. That can invest in an offensive line in Tennessee. That to me is where their first pick should go in next year's draft is getting a left tackle for Cam Ward. It's a great offensive line draft. That to me is where the investment's got to be for this Titans organization. So Cam's looking better as of late, and that's what you want to see. You want to see that progression from that young rookie quarterback. As for Kansas City, I mean, this has been a bad 24 hours for the Chiefs. Not just the fact that them losing is actually a good thing because they want to get as high of a pick as possible. But the report came out today that I think starting in 2031, they're leaving Kansas City, Missouri, and I guess they're going to play in Kansas City, Kansas. Like they're leaving Casey Moe and going to, to the state of Kansas, which is just a bummer. Like it's very similar. I found there's a lot of similarities to me. It's probably why I enjoy watching the Chiefs. There's a lot of similarities between the Chiefs dynasty and my beloved Golden State Warriors dynasty. And now just add another component to fans waited for decades for the team to go from incompetent to amazing. They're amazing, and then they move. Then they leave Oakland, and those diehard, passionate, loyal fans at Oracle Arena. And not that the fans are bad in San Francisco, but they're not even in the same ballpark as the fans in Oakland. That's every Warriors fan knows I'm right on that. And Warriors players too, coaches. And with Kansas City, man, you talk about home field advantages. Arrowhead Stadium's up there. It is, and it's a bummer they're ditching it. It's a bummer for the fans. As for the game itself, though, I think yesterday showed you against the god-awful Titans defense. And I know the 3rd string quarterback came in in the second half, but Patrick Mahomes was kind of holding this thing together the best that he could. I honestly don't know. Nick Wright was talking about this, and I think he's right. I don't know if there's any other quarterback that could have made this work. And there's another not so fun stat. This just goes to show you, we think we know coming in the NFL season who's going to be good, who's not going to be good. We think we know. We don't actually know. And this graphic kind of proves it. The difference the season can make. So the Lions, Ravens, and Chiefs last year were a combined 42-9. This year, Lions, Ravens, Chiefs, 21-24. Now, some of that's injuries, some of that's losing coordinators. There's a lot of factors in there. But we talk about the NFL's a week-to-week league. It's definitely a year-to-year league. And it's why we love it. It changes on a dime. What else do we have next? Okay. I want to devote a little bit of time to this. Chargers of the Cowboys, 34-17. It was one of the few games I actually got wrong. I had a good week of picks. Like I said, Bryson Bleak bet, that hit. Upset of the week hit, and all 3, if I were a Betman games, hit this week. Matter of fact, just to celebrate it, just to celebrate that the comment, it took till week 16 to get it, but we celebrate today nonetheless. It was a great weekend to have my favorite segment of all time hit. It is called
Betman.
It was great to see. It really was. One of the few games I got wrong, though, was Chargers over the Cowboys 34-17. Now, Dallas's offense got rolling early. George Pickens, finally, welcome to the party. He started making plays. Dak was great early in this game. They're running the football effectively. But when you're fielding the second worst defense of football, we'll get into that in a second, and you're playing Justin Herbert, even without his tackles, and they lost more starters in that offensive line yesterday, you're going to get cooked. And Justin Herbert, to his credit, will show you his numbers, absolutely cooked the Cowboys yesterday. 3 total touchdowns, 2 passing, 1 rushing, no interceptions, a 79% completion percentage, 342 total yards, a 132.8 rating, which is amazing. And maybe even more amazing is a QBR from 0 to 100 of 92.9. He was accurate. He used his legs well. Quentin Johnson made plays. Ladd McConkey. So Herbert was great. The Chargers, by the way, they won 4 straight. Kind of quietly, but they won 4 straight. They beat Philadelphia, beat Kansas City when Mahomes was there for the majority of the game, beat Dallas on the road in Dallas. Chargers are playing good football. The conversation I wanted to have, though, is about the Cowboys. So they obviously knew coming into this, they knew coming in the weekend, their chances of making the playoffs were almost nothing after that loss to Minnesota. Once Philadelphia won, their chances were nothing. They were officially eliminated. But last home game, Chargers are a good team. Dallas they beat Philadelphia, obviously. They've beaten good teams this year from time to time. I found myself at the end of that game kind of mad. And for those that don't know, growing up, I was a Cowboys fan. Like, big Cowboys fan. That just so happened to, early in my Cowboys fandom, intersect with the fact that I was a huge fan of Dak Prescott at Mississippi State. So the fact that my team drafted Dak in 2016, hand to God, I reacted with more excitement to the Dak Prescott pick in 2016 than the Ezekiel Elliott pick when he went 4th overall of Ohio State in 2016. Hand to God. Y'all know I'm a huge Dak Prescott fan. And so when over time I saw the organization wasting his talents and then refusing to give him a long-term extension that other quarterbacks that were not as good as he was, Carson Wentz, for example, were getting, and then he screws up his ankle in that Giants game in 2020. I'm like, okay, screw the Cowboys. I will pull for Dak wherever he plays for, Dallas or elsewhere. Once he's out of Dallas, I'll never pull for the Cowboys again. And that's how I became a Steelers fan over time. And so with that backstory, I found myself getting really pissed off watching that game. Because I'm thinking, man, this freaking disastrous trash can of an organization. Dak Prescott had maybe the best season of his career, and that's saying something because his last healthy season, he finished 2nd for MVP to Lamar Jackson. Show Dak's numbers this year in Dallas. He's been a top 5 quarterback by every metric. 2nd in touchdowns, 5th in completions, 2nd in yards per game, 10th in ratings, 2nd in QBR. He's been awesome. Dak has had an outstanding year with a bad pass protecting offensive line, with CeeDee Lamb at times missing action, with George Pickens straight up quitting at points this season. Rookie head coach Brian Schottenheimer, terrible defense, we'll get into in just a second. Dak was awesome. The Cowboys knew going into virtually every game they played, man, we got to put up at least 30 or we're not winning. And Dak played his best ball in those situations. And then you add to that, okay, Dak, 2nd in passing yards. Javonte Williams, 6th in rushing yards. George Pickens, 3rd in receiving yards. CeeDee Lamb, despite missing time, 10th in receiving yards. Offense was unbelievable. So why is Dallas not in the playoffs, you say? Why is Dak Prescott not in the MVP conversation? He shouldn't win it. That should be Stafford, no question about it. But why aren't we talking Stafford, May, Dak? Because of one man, Jerry Jones, who let his own hubris, his own pride, his own ego get in the way of what could have been kind of a scary team in the NFC. If you combine that offense with an okay defense, which, by the way, is kind of what Dallas has been for the last 5 years, with a guy who's, a top 5 player in the entire NFL on his side of the ball, Micah Parsons. Because trading Micah Parsons, Jerry told us, hey, don't worry about it. We're going to be just fine. And listen, they've got picks. Jerry's bombed the last few drafts. I don't think he's going to hit on those picks, but hey, he's got picks, right? Selling the fan base on a rebuild when your quarterback is in the prime of his career. Okay. Let's show the Cowboys defense. This is the level that Jerry Jones has wasted the best year of Dak's career. Show the Cowboys defense numbers. Garbage. 31st in points allowed. 31st in total yards per game allowed. 31st in yards per play allowed. Last in yards per game allowed. Passers per game allowed. Last in touchdowns passing allowed. Last in passer rating allowed. Trading Micah was going to help them stop the run, right? Yeah, they're below average. 20th in stopping the run. 31st on third down are the Dallas. If you're playing the Dallas Cowboys defense, you convert on third down almost half the time. 47%. 31st in the National Football League. All because Micah had the audacity. You know, the best player in your team, him or Dak, by a country mile, the best defensive player on your team, had the audacity to say, yeah, I'd like an extension, Jerry. My production's been pretty good in Dallas. And matter of fact, can we show Micah's numbers before the Dallas trade? He was 5th in sacks, 5th in tackles for loss. He had a second. He has the second best pass rush win grade by Pro Football Focus. Second in pass rush win rate. First in pressure rate, all according to Pro Football Focus. Micah was pretty good. I think last year, some of the second, third level analytics said, yeah, the Cowboys were the worst defense in football when Micah was off the field because he dealt with injuries last season. And prior to injury, Micah was probably going to finish second for Defensive Player of the Year to Myles Garrett with the Green Bay Packers this year. But all because of Jerry's hubris, because one player had the audacity to challenge Jerry, to call Jerry's bluff. Jerry said, okay, screw you. I'm going to show the whole world I'm going to rebuild this thing. We'll see. Those draft picks haven't been made yet, although you bombed one of them for Quentin Williams, who's a very good player. He's not Micah Parsons. And the Cowboys defense wasted maybe the best season of Dak Prescott's career. Wasted an opportunity in a wide-open NFC to maybe compete a little bit. It looks like Dallas, looks like you've got your coach. Schottenheimer's better than McCarthy and Garrett. You know you got your quarterback. You're not sure if Pickens is coming back next year. And if he does, it's on a greater contract. You run the football finally on a consistent basis, which you haven't done since the prime of Ezekiel Elliott. Team wasn't perfect, but it had pieces. The offense did their job. And now Dak Prescott is having to answer questions after the game about, like, is this going to be a situation where, you know, you guys have kind of like not literally, but kind of thrown in the towel for the season because, you know, you are the playoffs. And Dak, being the A+++++ leader that he is, gave this answer.
This is our job. Like, we're blessed. You know how hard we've worked and the sacrifices we've got to even get to this league, to get to this 10 years in for myself, to be healthy, to like, I said it to the team in the, I think it was Friday when we're breaking down, or Saturday, whenever. It's like, this game has given us so much. How could you cheat it? I think Osa said it best, you know, when he just broke down the team right there after the game of, we got 2 weeks left and nothing's promised in life, right? Our football careers damn sure aren't. So nothing in life is. Like, let's enjoy these 2 weeks, cherish these moments, these practices, these time together with the men and the brothers that we love and we've got an opportunity to play with. This team won't be the same next year. So let's enjoy this and give it our best.
That's the guy who Jerry Jones wasted the best year of his career. Top 5 in virtually every statistical category. Top 5 by any metric as a quarterback this year. And, I mean, we knew how great of a leader Dak was. You just heard it right there. But also, why did Jerry do it? No one was that I should say no one. The intrigue in Dallas, because there weren't championship expectations, y'all remember the offseason, was not what it has been in years past. So what does Jerry Jones do? He trades Micah Parsons to create some drama. Hey, Jerry admitted what his business plan is earlier this offseason.
I do believe if we're not being looked at, then I'll do my part to get us looked at. The Cowboys are a soap opera, 365.
The training will begin
when it gets slow, I'll start.
Please take your seats.
So it's wonderful to have the great athletes, have the great players, but there's something more there. There's sizzle, there's emotion, and if you will, there's controversy. That controversy is good stuff in terms of keeping and having people's attention.
It's nice to have Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb and Micah Parsons, but like, we're more so here to entertain people than to, do what the other 31 teams are allegedly trying to do, some much better than others, and that's, win Super Bowls, which you haven't done in 3 decades. I'll do it until I'm blue in the face or until he retires, whichever comes last. Dak Prescott, if by any chance you're watching or listening to this, get the heck out of Dallas, bruh. Look no further than a guy who's in your conference, Matthew Stafford. Was in it. Lions are well run now, but when Stafford was there for 12 years, one of the worst run organizations in football. Wasted the primes of Stafford and Calvin Johnson. And so Stafford and the Lions came to agreement. We'll send you to a contender. We'll rebuild here in Detroit. It's worked out for both parties, but it's worked out better for Stafford, who's shown the world, hey, I already won a Super Bowl, might win another one, should win league MVP this year, have the best year of my career at 37 years old. Imagine what I've done in my prime if I had the requisite organizational pieces around me. I think Dak Prescott might very well prove that. Hopefully, if he says, you know what, this is an unserious franchise, I'm going to go win. I certainly don't expect him to do that this offseason, but I hope at some point he does. I really do. A guy that caliber of a player, that caliber of a dude and a leader, a lot of franchises would like to have a guy like that. If you put Dak Prescott in Minnesota, that's a Super Bowl contender today. Those weapons, that coach, that deep, that's a Super Bowl contender today. Shoot, Stafford retires. If he retired this year or maybe even next year, we sure they don't go after Dak? Put Dak with McVay and, oh my goodness. I want to see that for him. And it's a shame the Dallas Cowboys and Jerry Jones, because of pure hubris, pure arrogance. Hey, Micah Parsons, you're not bigger than me. I'll show you how valuable. Yeah, Micah was the second best defensive player in all of football. And your defense was hot garbage on the 4th of July. But such are the problems of the Dallas Cowboys. Speaking of the Vikings, they beat the Giants 16-13. Jackson Dart had a brutal game. What do you have? Like 31? Was it 31 yards passing? 33 yards passing. The Giants straight up would not let him throw the football. Only 13 attempts. It was a weird game plan, to say the very least. But Minnesota wins. Bengals over the Dolphins, 45-21. Quinn Ewers made his first start of his career. Not great. A couple of picks, but again, he's a 7th-round pick. I wasn't a big Quinn Ewers believer coming out of Texas or even while he was at Texas. Joe Burrow's great. 4 touchdowns passing on the game. Speaking of quarterbacks that need to ask for a trade, Joe Burrow's one of those guys. What else do we have? Oh, huge game in the NFC South. The Panthers, baby, over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 23-20. Listen, I talked about 2 young quarterbacks that I had huge belief in coming into the year. When they came in the league. Trevor Lawrence and Caleb Williams, and they're validating my belief in them. A guy I did not have belief in as a superstar or even as a great quarterback was Bryce Young. First overall pick in 2023. Stroud has looked to be the better prospect. But I said after that rookie year in Carolina and when he got benched in year 2, I said he's not as I've seen this kid play in college. And I know not all college players translate. I understand that. And I know the height is a concern. He's not as bad as what the film's showing. Like there's something in there. He moves fine. He's pretty comfortable in the pocket. I don't know. You have pretty big, 6'5" guys at Alabama. Didn't seem to have a problem throwing over them, right? Last 17 games. That's a whole NFL season. Here's Bryce Young. Not amazing, but not bad. 28 touchdowns, 9 picks, 63% completion, 194 pass yards per game. You want to improve that. 93 rating, not bad. 10-7, and 8 of those 10 wins are on game-winning drives. Came up clutch again yesterday. Now Carolina is in the driver's seat in the NFC South. Listen, my guess is Carolina loses to Seattle next week, and Tampa Bay beats Bucks play the Dolphins, I think. And then the division comes down to Week 18 in Tampa. It's hard to sweep a team, but the way Baker's been playing as of late and the way this Bucks offense is just cratered, I feel like Carolina probably should win this division. I mean, if they shock Seattle, and Tampa were to lose to Miami, they do win the division. So there you go. Kudos to the Panthers for an incredibly impressive W. What do we have up next? Falcons, Cardinals. Bijan Robinson was great. The Texans over the Raiders. Kudos to Ashton Genty. It was one of the few bright spots for the Raiders in this game. 25 touches, 188 total yards, 2 touchdowns, 7.5 yards per touch. But basically by himself, kept the Vegas Raiders in that football game against Houston, but Texans barely got out of there with the W. But yeah, that is our Week 16 NFL recap. I can't believe we're in Week 16. Going to predict Colts and Niners on the other side of the break. But before that, going to discuss some college football playoff and what was a really intriguing weekend, to say the very least, in the world of college football. Talk about that and predict Niners versus Colts after this 1-minute break. Don't go anywhere, folks. Welcome back to Carving Up Live. Thanks to everybody for stopping by on a Monday. Just as a heads up, obviously we do our show Monday, Wednesday, Friday, normally at 6 Eastern through Pacific. Well, Wednesday, of course, is Christmas Eve. So we're going to be doing the show a little bit earlier that day. We don't have it locked in yet, but I'm almost certain it's going to be at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific time. Going to do, again, reaction to Niners, Colts, some Bryson's Best 10, top 10 teams in the NFL. May do a couple of special Christmas segments. Definitely going to do one that we've done the last few years, which is my naughty and nice list for sports for 2025. So definitely you'll want to stay tuned for that. And I think we may or may not do a Bryson's Best 10 ranking Christmas movies. So keep your eye out for all those things. That show is almost certainly going to be live on Wednesday, not at 6 Eastern, 3 Pacific, but at noon Eastern, 9 Pacific Standard Time, right here on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, X, and Instagram, and pretty much anywhere that we stream. Again, we're working on getting the show live on TikTok. We're still working out the kinks on that, but as soon as we get it there, we will certainly let you guys know so you can check it out on there. Some college football, though. So the first round of the playoff kicked off on Friday night with Alabama getting a come-from-behind win, starting down 17-0 on the road in Norman, Oklahoma. John Mateer's got it going. The Oklahoma defense, which feels like they've done this all year, is just suffocating an Alabama offense that has been dormant for a month. Going back to the LSU game, going back to the loss to Oklahoma, going back to the Iron Bowl, going back to the SEC Championship game against Georgia. Bama's offense has been a no-show for a month now. That's part of the reason, even though I said I do have trepidation picking Oklahoma because it's hard to beat a good team twice. But at home with that defense, extra time to prepare, like I like Oklahoma in that matchup. Alabama, to their credit, Ty Simpson comes live. The pick six changed everything, to change the entire complexion for that game. Oklahoma really wasn't able to recover from there, and Alabama wins. As for the game Saturday afternoon, Miami over Texas A&M 10-3 was the final score there. Just a defensive stalemate. It was windy. It was not ideal conditions. Kickers were missing left and right, and I mean literally missing left and right. It was all over the place. The kicking competition, the Pat McAfee kicking competition, was a mess before the game on College Game Day. I did pick Miami to win this game. I thought they would win at the line of scrimmage, and they did. Marcel Reed really struggled. The goal line pick was absolutely brutal. Tough way for Texas A&M season to end, but I did think Miami was the better team. I got to say, this was a rough weekend for, and I one of my dear friends, John Rivera, shout out to John, one of my best friends in the world, is a diehard Notre Dame fan. This is not a good weekend for Notre Dame fans, because the two teams that got in over you, Bama and Miami, both won. And I saw a tweet, and I'm thinking, oh boy, did they watch the college football season? A Notre Dame fan tweeted, man, watching Miami versus Texas A&M, and Notre Dame would beat both of these teams. There's only one small problem with that. They already lost to both of those teams. They lost to Miami 27-24 in week 1 and lost 41-40 I think it was 41-40 to Texas A&M in week 3. So you could say what would happen if they play today, but that's semantics. They played early in the year and they lost both of those games. Like that's on you, Notre Dame. Join a conference, please. I'm saying this is the only way for you to get into playoff, but it sure would help instead of you playing some cupcake schedules outside the first 2 games. Regardless, to me, the weekend exposed 2 major truths about college football and then, in a larger sense, the college football playoff. Winning in the line of scrimmage is everything, man. Alabama had more sacks than Oklahoma. Now, Oklahoma had more total yards than Bama by a long shot. The pick 6 really kind of changed things in a major way. Oklahoma getting sort of that extra possession there. But Alabama was able to win the line of scrimmage, particularly in the second half. And then especially with Miami and Texas A&M. Miami ran the football far better than A&M did. They had the kid who had a great story, the running back for Miami. Make sure I get his name on the show. Okay, I guess I can't find it. What was the kid's name? Whose mother, Fletcher, the running back for Miami. Excellent player, had a big game. They showed his mother travels to, she has a fear of flying. She travels to every single game, drives to every single game that he plays, be it Miami or on the road. Apparently last year when Miami played Cal, she drove all the way to Cal Berkeley, I guess from Miami. I'm assuming she lives in South Beach, all the way to Cal. Like, that had to be a week-long trip. So shout out to her. They've shown her in the stands. It was a great moment with her and I imagine some family and loved ones. But he was excellent. Miami gave Marcel Reed a rough day at the office over and over and over, kept forcing Texas A&M on some 3rd and longs. Like, football is a complex sport, but as I've said many times on this show, football and particularly line play at its finest, moving another grown man, or in the case of college, moving another very large kid against their will. That is line play at its finest. Miami, that's what they did against Notre Dame. That's a big reason, not just them beating Notre Dame, but them beating Notre Dame at the line of scrimmage. Football's a physical game. It's a collision sport. That's where you got to win in order to be successful. And Miami did that in week 1 against Notre Dame, and they did that on Saturday against Texas A&M. So very deserving to win. You got Miami going to play Ohio State in I think that's the Cotton Bowl on New Year's Eve. Ohio State should win, but I think that's actually a more competitive game than people think. Now, Ohio State's going to have basically a month of rest, so that certainly favors them. But I don't suspect blowout coming. Let's put it that way. What are the Buckeyes favor in that game? 10? 9.5. Okay, so 9.5, 10, tomato. I'm still not decided on whether I'm going to take Ohio State to cover quite yet. Let's put it that way, because Miami has some matchups they can exploit. Although at the end of the day, though, Julian Sayin versus Carson Beck, that's not even a contest, obviously, as we all know. As far as the other 2 games, they played out exactly like we thought they would. Ole Miss over Tulane, 41-10. So Ole Miss literally played Tulane earlier this year, and it was 45-10. And they scored, I think, in 3 plays in like under a minute. Tulane, to their credit, kind of responded. Or actually, I think they had a pick early in their first drive. The game was never competitive. And then the nightcap, which, again, I don't know why the college football playoff didn't have the 2 bad games first, and then Miami A&M, and then Alabama, Oklahoma as the last 2 to kind of cap the week. I'm not sure. Maybe they were worried about competing with NFL ratings, which I was kind of glad they did so I can focus more on like the Packers-Bears game. Saturday night, Oregon over James Madison, 51-34. And before people say, well, I mean, James Madison was a 20-point dog and they covered. They scored 34 points on the road at Eugene. Went on the road to Autzen Stadium, competed with the Ducks. Folks, the game was 34-6 at the half. Like the game was over before it started. I know this is going to piss off the fans of G5 teams. And it's not to denigrate their season whatsoever. They both had excellent seasons, Tulane and James Madison. Honest to God, like the American Conference was by and large pretty tough this year. You had Navy, you had Memphis, tough conference. Kudos to them for getting the job done. USF, and then James Madison completely dominated the Sun Belt this year. Kudos to both of those squads. We got to get rid of the automatic G5 bid. And we definitely have to get rid of the automatic conference championship. Top 5 highest ranked conference champions gets you in, because we could have gotten Virginia, who would have gotten absolutely clobbered by Ole Miss. They were struggling to get out of the terrible ACC, and they showed that because they lost to 7-5 Duke. Or we get Tulane and James Madison. To me, it's this simple. Just put the 12 best teams in. And the best way to ensure, because you're a G5 team, like, well, how can we prove that our schedule? Correct. Play the big dogs. Give you an example. Before Cincinnati was playing in the Big 12, before Cincinnati was playing in a Power 4 conference, what did Cincinnati do in 2021? They went on the road to Notre Dame and beat the Fighting Irish. What did they get rewarded for that? They got in the college football playoff. You can get in. It's possible. And by the way, some of that's on these programs. Schedule games based on region with the Mountain West, with the Sun Belt, with the MAC conference, with whoever. But don't have this in a position where it's, I mean, BYU and Texas and Vanderbilt are obviously better than Tulane and James Madison, but based on the rules of the playoff, we have to put them in. UCF 2017, Scott Frost is the head coach. UCF 2017, undefeated, validated that in the Peach Bowl by beating an Auburn team that beat Alabama and Georgia, who ended up playing the national championship game. Now, again, I'm not a fan of a transitive property. It's used often in college football and used from time to time in sports, but UCF proved, hey, we can hang with the big dogs. Auburn was in the SEC championship game, and we beat them. Schedule games. Some of this is on the powerful programs. Schedule games based on whatever part of the country you're in against the Mountain West, the Sun Belt, the MAC Conference, the American Conference. Schedule games, Conference USA. Schedule games against those teams. Let them go prove it. And if they do, reward them with a playoff appearance. By the way, Boise State did this last year. I think it was week 2, went on the road to Oregon, lost by a field goal, and won out. They deserve to be in the playoff. They proved we can hang physically with Oregon, who ended up being the 1 seed that year in the playoff. If you prove you can hang with the big dogs, you should be rewarded by putting in a tournament with the big dogs. So a lot of this is schedule making, and a lot of this is, man, we got robbed of having Notre Dame in the playoff, who are better than both these teams, and it would have been BYU, which I would have agreed with. I would have put Texas in as the 12 seed because they did beat Vanderbilt. And I think they're absolutely better than BYU, who got crushed by Texas Tech twice, the best team they played all year. But that's the reality of the situation, man. Like, it doesn't have to be unfair to either party. It doesn't have to be unfair to G5 teams. It doesn't have to be unfair for the viewers. So where we're subjected to, well, no, the outcome of this. That was the issue with college football for years. Is that because there was no NIL, because you had, which I guess there technically was NIL, but it was shady NIL, wasn't regulated. You had the 14 playoff. You had a landscape in college football to where there's 1, maybe 2 great teams per conference, and the rest are kind of in the middle and the bottom. Now the sport's more wide open than it's ever been. Ohio State was the 8 seed last year. Yeah, they were the 8 seed last year, and they won the national championship. It's not a hard concept. Get the 12 best teams in the playoff. Anyone will say, well, James Madison scored 34. Yeah, after Oregon called the dogs off. I had a brief athletic career. It's part of the reason I'm doing this show, because I always say I talk sports because I wasn't very good at them. When I was I think it was in 8th grade, played, middle school basketball. This is a true story. The team I played on, I'll be honest, we weren't very good. I think we had a losing record. Our first game of the year, and I don't know who scheduled this game. I really don't. It was almost child abuse out there. We played the state champions in the first game of the season. I think it was on Halloween too. First game of the year we played the state champions. They just full court press us to death. And I think they scored like 20 points in the first minute. I mean, it was ugly out there. I think they finished with 88. So let's do that math. 20 points in the first minute. I guess what were they? 24 minutes? I think they were like 6-minute quarters. 6-minute? I think they were 6-minute quarters. So let's say that for the sake of argument. 20 points in the first minute, 68 in the last 23. They called the dogs off. Full court press, getting a bunch of layups. Coach was like, hey, put the bench guys in. It's kind of like a practice for us. That's what Oregon and James Madison was on Saturday night. Dante Moore's dealing. The defense is suffocating the James Madison offense. I mean, what are we doing? Yeah, they got their 28 points in the second half once Oregon said, hey, let's go and pack up. We're headed to Fiesta Bowl to take on Texas Tech. Like, let's not be disingenuous about, or sorry, the Orange Bowl, not the Fiesta Bowl, the Orange Bowl. Let's not be disingenuous about what we saw. As for the playoff matchups, and I won't predict these until next week, because I want to see how the lines shift and what happens. So you're going to have Miami and Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl, which will be at 7:30 Eastern on New Year's Eve. And then on New Year's Day, you're going to have Oregon, Texas Tech at noon in the Orange Bowl. By the way, Ohio State's favored -9.5 over Miami. Oregon's a 1.5-point favorite over Texas Tech. I'm leaning Oregon. Texas Tech's better than people give them credit for. They've got the best linebacker in college football. So I'm curious to see how that materializes. Maybe the most entertaining game. Alabama, Indiana in the Rose Bowl. Indiana is a 6.5-point favorite. That's a fun matchup. And then finally at 8 o'clock, this is, of course, New Year's Day, you got a rematch of the two teams that played in the regular season. Ole Miss taking on Georgia. The Dogs are 6.5-point favorites in that game. That was the only time Ole Miss lost all year, and they probably should have beaten Georgia in between the hedges in Athens. So all four great matchups in the second round of the playoff. Like, to me, honestly, there's a path for all 8 of these teams to win the national championships. For some slimmer than others, there's a path for any of them. They've got that kind of talent. So I can't wait. Thank God for NIL, transfer portal, conference realignment, and 12-team playoff, because this is the matchups we get as a result of that. More big games, good for this show, good for all of us as viewers. Before we get out of here, got a game tonight featuring the San Francisco 49ers and the Indianapolis Colts. The Niners, as we see here today, are a 4.5-point favorite on the road at Indianapolis. So there are certain moments in sports, I feel like something weird is going to happen. I can't put a finger on it. Can't back it up with a stat. I just have a weird feeling. Sometimes I'm running the money. Sometimes I'm dead wrong. It's home run or it's strikeout. I have a funny feeling this game's going to be kind of interesting. San Francisco's defense hasn't been that good as of late. Just gave up 24 to the Titans. Obviously dealing with missing starters, Bosa and Fred Warner, who've been out for most of the season. And I have a feeling in Indianapolis, Phillip Rivers' last full NFL season was 2020 with the Colts, obviously. That's part of the reason he came back. Not just because he's familiar with Indianapolis, but he's familiar with Shane Steichen, who was on the Chargers coaching staff when he was there toward the end of his time in San Diego and Los Angeles. He's never played in front of a home crowd at Indianapolis because that was the COVID year that he played his last full season with the Indianapolis Colts. Monday Night Football, raucous crowd. Colts know to have any prayer's chance of making the playoffs. They got to win this game and win out, to be frank. I think the Niners win, but I'm a big Lou Anarumo fan. I think he gives Brock Purdy some problems. I'm going to go 24-20 Niners, Colts plus 4.5. I should have gotten this when it was Colts plus 5.5. Looks like some people are kind of, the betting public is kind of on the same side I am at taking Indianapolis to cover, taking Indianapolis in the points. Niners win 24-20. The Niners certainly need this game for bigger aspirations than Indianapolis does, but somewhat weird feeling Monday Night Football. I don't know. How much of a pass rush are they going to generate on old Phillip Rivers? It's going to be a fun game. I'm looking forward to it. And with that is all the time that we have for today's show. Appreciate everybody for stopping by as always. Be sure to catch Carving Up Live on Wednesday at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific time. Again, doing a little bit of an early show for Christmas Eve. We're going to have like a Christmas holiday themed show, so definitely stay tuned for that. Of course, we're going to have some Bryson's Best 10, top 10 teams in the NFL, reaction to Niners and Colts. Also, we'll have predictions, not just for the NFL's Christmas games, but of course, for the NBA's Christmas game. So it's going to be a very, very fun show, very lively, festive holiday show. You're going to want to check that out on Wednesday at 12 a.m. if I can speak. 12 p.m. Eastern, noon p.m. Eastern, noon Eastern. It was rough to finish the show, guys. I apologize. Noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific time, right here on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, X, and on Instagram. Appreciate everybody for tuning in today, for chiming into the comment section. We appreciate it as always. Be sure to catch Carving Up Live anywhere you get your podcast. Check us out on the YouTube channel, all of our newest social media clips, full video clips of our full segments. Subscribe, take 2 seconds out of your day, hit that big red subscribe button right down there. It helps the channel grow exponentially, and you see all of my social media platforms that I'm on right there. Instagram, X, TikTok, YouTube, also on Twitch, Facebook. Follow me on all of those platforms. I would greatly, greatly appreciate it. Let's grow this space as much as we possibly can. Have a great week, everybody. We will see y'all on Wednesday afternoon for a holiday-themed show. Stay safe out there. God bless y'all. Peace out. And let's freaking go, Steelers. Come on. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.